coffee in the morning. I care for nothing else. The hunger thing for me is me bowl of boiling coffee in the morning. Some people likes the chocolate, some people likes the tea, some drinks the sugar and water, and some the lemonade. But I ain't cares for none of these. The hunger thing for me is me bowl of boiling coffee in the morning.
Yes, I will watch it.
The other assignment now, we're going to finish number 2, and I think number 5 we're going to do,
we have policy control as well.
Yeah, and policy now that finish up,
oh
so
my word.
a whole heap of assignments, so we have to move fast.
Don't even mention health promotion.
Not to mention Dr. Reed assignment with health promotion something, so we have to really move fast and get all this done.
Solid waste. We have
and solid waste with Mr. Williamson, so everything have to go fast and get everything done. So
we still stress out,
Lord have mercy, then we talk about the stress part of the man.
I can't bother. Right now, I just need poetry. I need a drink.
I want some of this, but I drink some of this morning.
What is this?
Just drink some, man. That's what I drink this morning.
You sure?
Yeah, man.
Trust female, you sure?
Yeah, man. Just drink some of something, man.
What is this? What is this? Hello? What is this? Khadija? Who are you? What are you? I'm the ghost of Coffee Past. Did you just disrespect coffee? Do you have any idea what goes into making that cup of coffee right there? A lot of work, a lot of math, a lot of money, a lot of environment. But you know what? You don't know none. I'm gonna take you on that journey.
So where's Sanjay turn gone? Seriously? Just gone like that?
Where am I? Calm yourself, human. Calm yourself. I just wanted to show you the process of coffee farming. No, you're not dead. I just took you back to the past. I'm going to show you how the coffee got from the trees to your cup. You see those people over there? Yeah, those people right there. That can cause pollution. Yeah, but I got more to tell you about that. Wait until we get there, okay? So first, you had to plant these. They were seedlings, took about 10 months to grow. Then you took them from little bags and you transplanted them to the earth, right? Then after that, 3 to 4 years, you leave them to mature and start making other coffee. Then you had to wait for them to ripen. Then you harvested those beans. Then you take them to a poultry and you separate the cherry from the actual coffee bean.
So this is what we call rolling bin. So the top coming to tip here. And let's go down. Okay, this conveyor belt here. It comes on the conveyor belt here. And this tank here all about 200 gallons of water. This tank here. So what happened when it comes in here? It have a pump in the tank. What the pump does now, you know that berry or feed on the coffee.
Yeah.
So this separate the good one from the bad. So here, so you have push through that here, so. So when it start the process and water boil up, so bad coffee will come here. They are still good enough because sometimes it's just one seed. Then you have the good one come over here now. What this does now, it separate any stone or any nails or piece of iron going there. Well, this separate it. And then you come here, so now, and you have a hole in it here. Where you have the bad, you have to put in this thing we call a elevator. It have some cups and a conveyor belt. Come down and pick up. Come in here. This raw thing now is what we call a pre-pot. It's just like you chew food for a baby. These two round things now is actually the pulp, and that's what separate the trash from the seed. And then we go in this big round drum, what they call a green bean separator. Now this machine here. This here, we call it washer, but the mucilage is the right name for it. What it does, it uses water. This is the only thing that doesn't use the water, because what we do when the water come down, it continues to rotate, pump and fill. So we use the same amount of water right through all the process. Here now we have to use.
That water, they say that is taken from there. That is water recycled and come back up here with the pulping process.
With the pulping process.
But then that changes when it comes
when
here.
When it comes here.
Okay, because
so
this is the water that they're going to use now to take off
the toxic.
Alright, the mucilage, what he's talking about, is when you pick the cherry. Remember when I showed you where you pick the cherry? And there is that sort of sliminess of the cherry
on it.
On it. That's what they call the mucilage. And that is what they have to remove.
And that is toxic. Very dangerous to the environment.
Did you change me? Yeah. I don't really like pink that much, but you look great now.
Oh, thank you.
So that was the process of pulping. But one of the end products is mucilage.
Isn't that still harmful to the
environment? It's really harmful. It's like toxic. And you also use other stuff during the whole planting and growing of the trees. You use pesticides like DDT and Aldrin and Belgian. But those are class 1. We don't use those anymore. Those are like off. We don't use those. Those are too dangerous. So now we use Bandit, and that gets rid of the worms that try to eat the coffee. The borer worm.
Oh. But yet I'm still not convinced.
That's fine. I have more people to help me with that.
More few people?
Help me.
Oh God.
Lots and lots of me.
Where am I? Alright. Where's Khadija? Why am I in the chamber floor? So where am I? Not again.
I'll be taking you on a journey, and I'll be your ghost of the present. Let's go. I'll be talking to you entirely about all the effects, how man suffers, and all of that. You see, back then, they used something called class 1 chemicals, no longer in use anymore. They were all the dirty dozen chemicals, no longer in use. But now, they're using something called class 2 chemicals. Class 2 chemicals, not so bad on the environment, not so bad on man. Quite interesting, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Still not convinced.
And there's this thing they use now called Bandit. It kills most of the pests, but man is not so much affected, so they rather use that one. Lesser effect on the man. Yeah.
What others?
And there's this thing called mucilage. Mucilage is what you get off the coffee, off the pulpy.
You need the slime thing?
Yeah, that's like that same slimy thing. But guess what? You cannot discard of the mucilage straight into the environment. So what they do, they filter it off, and after filtering, the water is quite good enough to go into the environment.
The water can be drunk?
Yes, it could be drink, you know. But what they do is that they use it for irrigation purposes. So you can water your pepper, the tomato, and all of that. The slime that you get from the filtering now, it is safe enough at that time. It can be used as a means of fertilizing the plants you have in the farm. So, you know, improvisation in that case. So, the mucilage thing now, is it that part of it? What you get from the coffee after you pulp it, and the outer skin from the seeds.
Am I doing right now?
No. We confused? Alright, here what now? Let's go over there, have a seat, and talk this a bit calm. Alright, the current plastic chemical that's being used now is called Bandit. If I spray my farm with Bandit, persons who live nearby, the runoff can affect them. How would it affect them now? You see the rivers that are nearby? The chemical can run off into that river. Persons who use the river can be affected. They take fish from the river for consumption, they eat it, and they can also be affected. I work and I spray the chemicals, I have the worker can be affected as well. And the fact that birds are flying over and about the place, those birds as well can be affected. And we don't want none of that to be happening.
Something as well. You see two boats are so right. Oh, Angel.
Hi, Sanjay.
Why? I don't know what I'm thinking about. Two buses. I don't know if me just come out and spirit realm or something. You don't know anything about? Oh yeah, that hurts.
With what?
Do you know anything about the legislation that coffee industry have?
Well, I might. Because like the other day in class, this was talking about a NEPA booklet. And I decided to look through for my own purposes. But I might have written down some of them that could relate to coffee. Like,
Please remind me, please.
the Forestry Act and Watershed Resource Act, Natural Resource Conservation Act, and Pesticide Act.
What does National Resource Conservation Act?
Okay, well, according to what I've written, that one states that environmental quality must be conserved at all times. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, the environment, you must not ever compromise the environment when you're doing it, right? And how this relates to coffee is that the land has to be selected in such a way that any of the effects of coffee farming does not have a bad effect on the environment. And that goes intertwined with the Water Resource Act, which states that the same land you're using for the coffee must not be interrupting any watershed, and it must not be contaminating any water bodies. So it states that the land must be properly utilized, and watershed areas must always be protected, and you must limit deforestation, and you must ensure that whenever you take off trees, you put them back. And also, speaking of deforestation, you have the Forestry Act, which also says that you should not practice deforestation, and if you do, you must ensure that you reforest, which means that you plant some trees. And as it relates to coffee, you know that they plant coffee up in the mountains, right?
Yeah.
And you probably have to clear off all that land to make space for the coffee. So you have to get a license for that, number one.
What? Really?
You have to get a license to cut the trees down. And if you don't, then you could pay a fine and go to jail.
So you have different licenses to do different
You
stuff?
have different licenses to do different stuff. And under the same licensing thing, there are protected areas. So there are some areas that you cannot cut. You don't get a license to cut them at all.
I know.
No, they're protected, like wildlife areas, and you know about coffee country. That's protected. You know about coffee country.
Interesting.
Yeah. And pesticide act. Like when they're growing the coffee, they use pesticides to keep off pests. And it states that all the pesticides you're using, they must be registered. And I know you know something about registration. It means that if anything happens, then you must be able to track down what you just used, and that's how it relates to coffee. Let's say you just used a specific pesticide on some coffee over there, and it caused some harm. You need to know what it was. How do you combat this effect? You need to know what started it in the first place, right? So, I guess that's it. Yeah.
That's basically all the decisions.
And all of this is all concerned with NEPA. They enforce all these things. But wait, one more. The Public Health Act, which gives public health inspectors and officers to enter any premises at any time and check to make sure that they're obeying all the regulations.
Thanks, Angel, for clearing my mind.
Anytime.
Man. Wow, I didn't know that so much legislation was there,
You should see the rest of the resume.
Well, I'm going to take a walk and try to, take in what you just gave me.
And see some more ghosts.
Yeah, no, what? Hell no. Well, we'll see you later in class. Alright.
coffee wasn't good.
It is good, but it has effects.
This coast is really tasty, you know.
You have deforestation, water quality degradation, and like a whole lot of buildup of waste due to the production process. Yes, but there's stuff in place that can help that. Look around us. Look at all these effects. It wasn't always like this. Originally, coffee was grown in tropical and subtropical areas at high elevation, often in rugged mountainous areas, and naturally grown under shaded canopy trees. These provided habitats for indigenous animals and insects that prevented topsoil erosion and prevented the need for chemical fertilizers. However, in the 1970s, the sun-cultivated method of coffee began, where forestry was cleared because it was believed that it would increase photosynthesis, prevent disease, and allow greater density of shrub planting. But due to this method, addition of fertilizers was necessary for high-yielding coffee, and this eliminates the diversity of plants which an array of animals and insects needs, posing a detrimental impact on biodiversity and other environmental harm. As you can see over there, deforestation is taking place, and this has severe effects on the environment. Due to the sun-cultivating method of coffee farming, this resulted in 2.5 million acres of forest being cleared in Central America alone to make way for coffee farming. Deforestation is a serious matter, as this is causing extinction of plants and animals, air and water pollution, soil erosion, and climate change, where rainforests are drying up because of the lack of sun-blocking protection. These trees are important to the water cycle, and the lack of water can cause barren deserts to form, increasing temperatures that can affect wildlife and contribute to the greenhouse effect. So you see, we need to stop this madness. Soil quality is also affected due to the elimination of shade covers in the sun cultivating method. This leaves the soil exposed, with higher rates of erosion occurring on renovated coffee plantations where vegetation has been reduced, leading to the use of agrochemicals, which can cause leachate of herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers into the ground or surface water. Agrochemical usage was way lower with traditional means, where other plants reduce the susceptibility to pests, and dead leaves would provide nutrients. However, sun-cultivated coffee often employs intensive pesticides and chemicals that present serious health and ecological concerns. The World Resource Institute, WRI, carried out a recent study that reports the extensive human exposure to pesticides in Latin America and elsewhere in the developing world. The correlation between increased nitrogen fertilizer application and the widespread removal of shade cover from the Central American coffee plantations is evident. With these heavy synthetic fertilizers, inputs contributing to increasing contamination of waterways and aquifers. Water pollution and contamination also needs to be thought about. Contamination of waterways also pose serious environmental threats from the processing of coffee beans. Largely irrespective of how coffee is grown, discharges from coffee processing plants represent a major source of river pollution. Ecological impacts result from the discharge of organic pollutants from the processing plants to rivers and waterways, triggering eutrophication of water systems and robbing aquatic plants and wildlife of essential oxygen. So you see, all of this is happening. And also waste. You cannot forget about waste. Look at that waste over there. Unsurprisingly, there is also an enormous amount of waste produced during the manufacture of coffee. The process of separating the commercial product, the beans that is, from the coffee cherries generates enormous volumes of waste material in the form of pulp, residual matter, and parchment. So, you see,
If you humans don't change the way you produce coffee, this will cause grave effects to the environment, which will affect you and me. Well, not me really, because I'm a ghost. Bye-bye. I'll see you some other time.
Hurricane, guess what? Saturday I walk and I say, I can't just chilling out. There's some schoolwork all of a sudden. I don't know which realm I'm going on. Three dopey come box me. I don't know what he said. Everything about that, but I don't this because I like coffee, but it was informative, but at the same time, I feel like them a trick my life. Boy, I don't know if it right now I have to do some research. What do you think? I learn about legislation. We learn about the outline, the step process of coffee, and all bag of things. I tell you, say, boy, I have to come talk to you. Tell me some recommendation. Cause I still not believe them, although they might kill me. But tell me.
So, some recommendations. So, traditional shade coffee systems typically rely on much lower chemical inputs than industrial plantation. This is because planting coffee among natural vegetation or among trees planted for shade, fruit or timber can reduce susceptibility to pests. Moreover, because many traditional methods have been passed down to today's farmers by previous generations before synthetic pesticides and fertilizers were widely used in agriculture, human land use equilibrium has evolved in coffee production over time. The use of less toxic chemicals should be practiced as well as biological methods for coffee pest management. Slope management is a key.
You mean this slope?
Yes, slope.
Oh, okay.
Slope management is key in preventing environmental issues such as soil erosion and conserving moisture. Effective slope management techniques such as terracing should be practiced. So awareness for the need of a sustainable coffee economy should be raised by making stakeholders aware of the threats to sustainability posed by negative economic conditions for producers and proposing measures in areas such as quality promotion and diversification to maintain balance in the coffee market. Now you also have long-term strategies including capacity building, improved monitoring of climate data, enhancing soil fertility, introducing or preserving different production models, and developing drought and disease-resistant varieties. And that's basically it.
Well, that was very informative. As for me, I have gone on the internet as well and looking up for the forestry policies for Jamaica. What I learned that forestry legislation policy plan is also implemented in Jamaica. The right to enjoy health and productive environment free from threats of injury or damage from the environmental abuse or degradation of ecological heritage. And with this, an agency was built, which is National Forest Management and Conservation Plan. This outlines where the Jamaican government conduct activities to protect and manage the forest in Jamaica. They aim to conservation and management of forestry, protection of soil, water and wildlife, creation of forestry inventors, and the development of wood-based industrial and social forestry. Now, as you can see, I've been learning all of these from 3 courses, and right now I appreciate coffee even though I don't drink coffee. But I'm glad to hear that we have recommendations to protect the environment. Thank you so much.
What are you looking at?
You're sure you don't see that?
What are you talking about?
You're sure you don't see that?
No, I don't see anything. Are you okay? There's nothing there.
I'm telling you, there were the same 3.
Are you okay?